Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Boland. Thank you all for joining me. There was a study that was conducted in the UK that stated that there is a very potent ingredient that's placed in marijuana that has caused and is causing people all over the world to become potheads. Now, I'm using their exact terminology here, according to the article of potheads. And this article, as I get through reading this article, is more than likely going to shock some of you, and more than likely it's not going to shock some of you. But I'm going to read this article because it has some very informative information in it. And then I'm going to give you my commentary on what I personally believe, which is a bigger picture and a bigger agenda going on here that's been going on for quite some time, all the way back to the 60s, based on my studies. So let's get into this. Because this is really bad. An article says highly potent strains of marijuana known to have large concentrations of, it's spelled TTRAHYDROCANNABINOL, abbreviated THC, okay, have created an uptick in addictions worldwide, according to a UK study. Published Monday to the journal Lancet Psychiatry, the study showed people who use cannabis with a THC potency above 5 to 10 milligrams per gram have a higher risk of addiction and watch this now, a higher risk of addiction and mental health problems. Well, this is saying something because I see this all the time on my job, and I'm going to get into that. Study co-author Tom Freeman, director of the Addiction and Mental Health group at the UK's University of Bath, told CNN in an email that high potency cannabis users have a, quote, fourfold increased risk of addiction, end quote, over low potency cannabis users. A report by the United Nations found that in the past 2 decades, the proportion of people seeking treatment for cannabis addiction has risen in all world regions apart from Africa, he said. And there's a picture here on this article. It's in Breitbart. They show a photo of, it says premium CBC sold here, twisting them. I mean, this is just crazy. This is weird how they have this here. And there's a writing at the bottom. I want to read that. A premium CBD sold here, sticker on a smoke shop in Hoboken, New Jersey, U.S. on Thursday, April 7, 2022. In New Jersey, Hoboken is racing to become first in the New York City area with adult use recreational weed. The sweeteners to be paid come atop the 2% in gross sales that the dispensaries will hand to Hoboken as a tax. Crazy, man. Crazy. Anyway, article goes on to say, currently roughly 3 in 10 people in the United States have been diagnosed with marijuana addiction, according to statistics from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, of course. Likewise, the European Monitoring Center for Drugs and Drug Addiction found a 76% increase in treatment for marijuana addictions over the past decade. The study further showed an increase in THC level concentrations going all the way back to 1975 per CNN. And you can read some of that. I don't want to read all of that. You can read that on your own free time. But the article goes on to say Freeman also cautioned that consumers may not be entirely aware of THC levels in the cannabis products they consume, especially if purchased illegally. Get that. According to this article, this individual states that consumers may not be entirely aware of THC levels in the cannabis products they consume, especially if purchased illegally. Forget about the illegal purchasing of it. You can have these high levels of THC levels in stuff you purchase legally. I'm not going to give away too much of this, but this just goes to show you the level of nefarious levels that these corporations and government officials will go to dumb down the public. But I'm going to get into that in detail. But let's continue this article. Let's continue this. He also warned that individual effort to curtail potency, quote, such as by adding less cannabis to their joint or inhaling less deeply, do not effectively lower a person's intake of THC. Certain types of cannabis are typically more potent than others. Cannabis extracts are typically more potent than cannabis flower, Freeman told CNN. Higher potency products still deliver a large dose of THC to consumers than lower potency products, he added. The study further noted that people addicted to cannabis have a higher risk. Now, here's the part I want you to pay attention to here. The study furthermore, I'm going to say that again. The study furthermore noted that people addicted to cannabis have a higher risk of psychosis or a, quote, loss of contact with reality, such as hearing voices or delusions. The evidence linking cannabis potency to addiction and psychosis was very clear, he told CNN. As many as 19 states and the District of Columbus have legalized marijuana for recreational use in the United States. And I've heard people have argued, that's the end of that article there. People have argued there for quite some time. Well, they need to legalize marijuana because, so many people are using it and so they need to legalize it for this reason and that reason. And the other reasons is, well, marijuana is not really all that serious of a drug. It's not all that addictive. It's not really all that serious. It's not a big deal. I hear that all the time for people who, use marijuana or want to find some way to justify using it or to justify being legalized. But according to this article, if the information in this article is accurate, okay, then what that shows us is that all these marijuana users, that there may be certain ingredients, THC, that's placed in this marijuana that you're using that may have an effect on your mind. That is affecting the minds of people all over the country and all over the world, according to the article. And he talked about psychosis and mental illness and hearing voices and having delusions. Now, let me share something with you about this. I work as a security, and I say this quite often. I work as a security officer in downtown Cleveland, at Tower City in downtown Cleveland. And of course, Tower City is like this. Well, I don't consider it a mall. People say it's a mall, but it is nothing like the malls I've known of. But anyway, for the sake of saying, Tower City is a mall, right? And I do security. I'm on bike patrol. And I'm outside oftentimes in the front, what's called the front portico area outside, making sure that all the crazies don't get inside to cause more problems for the guards inside. And the stuff that I see shows me, or at least suggests to me, that these individuals are on some high potent drug stuff. But in terms of this marijuana, I see that more and more. I see that with employees. Sometimes when I'm coming through the back and I'm coming through the valet section in the parking garage, there are workers that work at what is known as the MK Ferguson Plaza area, used to be the old post office. And when I'm coming through the back, up the ramp, I can smell this stinky, and I don't know if this is the same kind of marijuana. I'm not saying it is, but I'm pretty sure some of you that are watching this video know what I'm talking about because you more than likely smelled it. It smells like a skunk. It stinks. Now, I've smelled the old marijuana back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, stuff that, family members I've known smoked. I tried that, back when I was in the 20s and had a so-called friend or associate that tried to get me to smoke that mess. I'm glad I never, got into it. It didn't work for me, and this didn't work for me. I'm glad it didn't. The smell that was back then, it was, and it may sound weird, but it smelled much better than this crap they got now. The crap they have now smells like a skunk. Now, I'm not saying this is the same kind of marijuana, but it stinks. And it seems like, and when I say the same kind of marijuana, I'm talking about the marijuana laced with this THC stuff. But it seems like people that smoke this kind of marijuana that smell like a skunk, let's make this assumption that THC is laced with THC, whether they bought it legally or illegally. Okay. It seems to have an effect on them psychologically. And I've seen this, and appearance wise, they're darker. Their lips are darker. Their eyes are all, they just look like something dark has come upon them. And now this article is talking about how that this is causing them this may lead to psychosis and mental problems and health problems. What's going on here? Hearing voices, having delusions? Really? What's going on here? What I believe is going on here, especially with the legalization of marijuana and the legalization of certain drugs in 19 states, according to this article, I believe there's a bigger picture going on. Based on the studies of people like Paul McGuire and others that have made this assessment about mind control. That back in the 1960s, according to the research of Paul McGuire, in the 1960s, and I'm paraphrasing some of this stuff and I'm leaving some stuff out because I don't want this video to be taken down. So I can't give too much. But according to the research of Paul McGuire, who came from that time, I mean, he was a part of the hippie movement. So if anybody knows about this stuff and knows the dark, nefarious motives and purposes behind it, he does. And he said there was an individual that would go around in a van. I think he called it was electric Kool-Aid something. Can't remember it all. He said this individual would go around in a van filled with vats filled with LSD. And they would go around the country on college campuses passing out free vats of LSD and getting the young people, the students, addicted to this drug. And he stated that this was a massive mind control experience in order to put the young people into a state that would be susceptible to mind control. Because part of the way in which part of the goals, or rather part of the efforts to put a person under mind control is to give them drugs. Because drugs numbs the senses and opens the person up to suggestive words. It's easier to hypnotize a person, so to speak, when you have them hooked on drugs. And LSD is a very strong drug. Okay, so he said it would go around all around the country. This individual would go around the country in this van filled with vats of LSD. They pass this out to students all over the campuses, all over the country, and get them hooked on LSD. Now, and he said that this was and not only Paul McGuire, but others have said that this is other researchers have said the same thing, that there was a massive effort to dumb down the public in order to be able to control them psychologically. I personally believe, based on their research and some other researchers that I've read, that this is the ultimate goal. Sooner or later, all the states will legalize not only this marijuana with this high potency THC, whatever stuff in there, but they will also eventually, in my opinion, legalize all the other drugs. Yeah, I believe that eventually they will legalize all drugs. And it will be sold in stores, and you can go and get them, and they'll say, well, it's for recreational purposes. Recreational purposes? And then according to this article, the research states that this marijuana with high dose of THC in it could lead to psychosis and mental problems, stuff that I see all the time on my job. I believe that this is a massive attempt. The bigger picture is a massive attempt to put America under a drug-induced stupor, so that it is easier to control us psychologically and manipulate us psychologically, to put subliminal messages in our brain so that they can control us better for their global government. But I'm not going to give away too much of that, because this video will get taken down, because it's a little bit too radical. But it is what it is. That's what I personally believe. So this is an unfortunate situation right here. This whole idea of legalizing drugs, I never agreed with it. I never agreed with the legalization of marijuana. I didn't then, and I don't agree with it now, based in large part on what I just shared with you guys. I think there's a bigger agenda going on here. They shouldn't legalize it at all. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. God bless you all, and see you again.